Wait a minute, you promised me. We're on my job. Nope.
Good evening. Welcome to the Muscatine Community School District Board of Education meeting for Monday, November 18th. Madam Secretary, would you take roll for us, please, and help us determine a quorum?
You bet. Director DeBeat?
Here.
Drawbaugh?
Here.
Finn?
Here.
Mather?
Here.
McCarter?
Here.
Neighbor?
Here.
Wildermuth?
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of our visitors that are in the audience this evening and our media representatives as well. Our next agenda item is a student council update. If you'll step up to the podium so that our listeners at home are able to hear you, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm the secretary. So on Friday, November 1st, we had our annual fall bash, and it was a pretty good turnout. We raised over $800, and that's going to help pay for the prom expenses. And we hosted one of our 2 hunger drives already, and it was the Cannonball tournament. And for that, we raised over $430 in cash and over 200 canned goods, and that goes to MCSA, and 8 teams participated in that. And we also hosted Mr. Muscatine on November 12th, and 6 boys participated in that, including Cedric Castillo, Joaquin Bobet, Gage Minder, Dawson Sweat, Brooks Mathis, and Talk Portia. And Talk Portia was the winner of the pageant. All participants did a great job, and we raised over $600 in donations for that, and that's going to MCSA too. And we have one more hunger drive coming up early next month, and instead of doing bowls for hunger this year, during the basketball game, we decided to do it during the holiday stroll on December 6th, and it's going to be at the Black Pearl Cafe, I think. And we're going to serve soup, bread, and dessert, and the proceeds for that will go to MCSA as well. And finally, the week before finals this semester, we're going to have Happiness Week, and to help create a more positive environment and help students be less stressed. And we have a lot of things planned, including handing out treats, and we have theme days, art stations, and the annual Staff Dog Day. And those are mostly our plans for the end of this semester, and we're starting to plan for next semester as well. Thank you.
Catherine, before you slip away, does anybody have any questions? Sounds like you all have had a very busy semester.
Yeah.
We are always very grateful for all the work that the Student Council does, from fundraising efforts and prom efforts, and you all hit it out of the park every year, so thank you for that, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda are our employee recommendations.
All right, well, it is my pleasure to recommend our November Outstanding Employees. So if Mr. Troy Coolin could come to the podium first. So Troy is the counselor at Central Middle School, and he was nominated by Tristan Toll. I believe that Troy embodies the statement of going above and beyond. He consistently pushes students to do their best in cross country while also reaching out to those students struggling. He is great at trying to find a way to make all students and staff successful. We are very lucky to have a person like Troy in our district that is doing his all to make everyone better individuals. Thank you. Officer Whitney Pena. Whitney is our SRO officer, school resource officer at Muscatine High School, and she was nominated by Dr. Reby. Whitney Pena is a school resource officer who does her duty with compassion, commitment, and wisdom. Officer Pena understands how schools work and how correcting behavior is more than consequences. She looks out for our students when they face difficult situations. She stands for protecting the order of our schools, and she takes pride in her work. I have witnessed Whitney working with other school personnel to try and find ways to help an at-risk student help find end solutions to end the problems. No student is ever beyond her concern nor care. She is the arm of the law and the heart of law enforcement. Officer Pena is a valuable member of the Muscatine Community Schools and an important part of Muscatine community. She is willing to go the extra mile, from scouring surveillance tapes to find clues to a break-in, to supervising football games, to helping distribute food at the school's food bank. A school resource officer is intended to help build positive relationships with students, parents, and the school. Whitney lives that work and makes it happen each and every day.
Oh, okay. Congratulations. She wants your picture.
Christina Rosa. Christina is our secretary, receptionist at our administration center, and she was nominated by Miss Lisa Bunn. Christina has been the district's receptionist for over 1 year. Her positive attitude is contagious. She exemplifies the phrase, "Welcome to Muscatine Schools," by truly caring for each and every individual that either calls or visits our facility, and by going above and beyond to meet their needs, even if some of our callers or patrons are not having a good day. She is always professional and kind, because the front desk is basically the 411 for the entire district. Christina has had to learn so much about MCSD and how it works as a whole. She continually strives to learn all that she can so that she can help individuals immediately, as opposed to passing them on to others. She embodies true customer service. She also continually looks for ways to streamline and improve processes for our patrons. Additionally, Christina is a big help to me with translating school messenger messages that go out to our parents. She is proactive in her approach by preparing messages without any guidance from me, and helps me craft messages from a parent's point of view. I am grateful for her knowledge and skills. Her welcoming, can-do presence is appreciated and valued. Thank you. Rhonda Theobald. Rhonda is a paraeducator at Jefferson Elementary, and she was nominated by Miss Kim Schneider. I don't know what we do without Rhonda. She is always ready to go above and beyond for the kids, bringing in things for individuals and the whole. She comes up with new ways to motivate and support our kiddos that just need that. She also works with the staff to make a positive impact. Thank you. And we have Mr. Mike Truitt, and Mike wasn't available this evening, but Mike is a special education teacher at Muscatine High School, and he was nominated by Andy Whirling. Mike has been an invaluable member of the teaching staff at Muscatine High School. He has spent years building positive relationships centered around trust and respect with staff, students, and families in our community. He is dedicated to the success of each and every student. Mr. Truitt truly cares about the entire well-being of all students. He routinely goes above and beyond and makes our school a special place to be. So thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you again to all those that have been recognized this month. That is a highlight of one of the things that we get to do at each board meeting. The next agenda item that we have is Citizen Speaks. Citizen Speaks is for anyone in the audience that would like to address the board. We ask that you step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Per our board policy, the board's not able to have a conversation with you on any of those topics, but we would love to hear from you. We would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. I know that seems very short, but in effort for us to also run an efficient meeting, that is our standard. We have a timer that's up on the board just to give you the visual to help manage time as well. So if there's anyone that would like to speak, step to the podium now, please.
Good evening. My name is Molly Boyer. My address is 2507 Mulberry here in Muscatine. I am the parent of 4 students in the Muscatine Community School District. My kids are in 6th and 7th grade, and they attend Madison Elementary and Central Middle School. I am here on behalf of nearly 1,000 concerned residents who have signed a petition asking you to keep Central open until West can accommodate all Muscatine Middle School students without the use of temporary classrooms. The decision and implementation of keeping 6th grade students at the grade schools, resulting in overcrowding, is what has prompted this petition. The petition states, the consolidation of Muscatine elementary schools paired with moving 6th grade into the elementary buildings has resulted in overcrowding in our schools and undesirable circumstances for our students and teachers. This current situation has negatively impacted the academic experiences of students and staff, and we are concerned that if not addressed, the challenges will escalate. Here are some of the negative effects on the recent changes. Classrooms, large class sizes, not enough room for all sections, resulting in makeshift classrooms in libraries and other mixed-use areas are not conducive to focusing and learning. Overall, overcrowding and inadequate facilities. Lunch, long wait times paired with not enough room for the students and time for them to eat. Transportation, excessive congestion and leading to safety concerns for the students. Based on the ramifications of this year's changes, we are concerned that Emerged Middle School will likely experience similar effects only on a greater scale because the student population is larger. Some concerns are as follows: overcrowding, inadequate classroom, hallway, cafeteria, and locker room space, transportation and parking issues, inadequate sports facilities, lack of auditorium space, and potentially more disciplinary issues. As parents and community members, we ask that the Muscatine Community School District consider moving 6th grade back to the middle schools and take at least a year, if not more, before moving ahead with a consolidated middle school. Waiting until West Middle School, or the Susan Clark Junior High, has built an addition and updated the facilities to fit the incoming student body, will ensure that our students have a positive experience and will receive the quality education they deserve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Molly.
Good evening. I'm Natalie Maxwell McDonald, and I live at 111 Cannon Avenue. I'm the parent of a 6th grade student who spent K through 5 at Colorado and is now at Madison. Up until this year, I've been satisfied with his education experience. This year's days are sometimes overshadowed by the effects of overcrowding, and I worry about how these issues will potentially be compounded in an overcrowded middle school. Along these lines, in order for our district to meet its core value of students first and its target of students learning in a positive and supportive environment, I feel that you need to wait until West or Susan Clark is ready to safely and comfortably accommodate students before moving ahead with the merger. Based on our family's experience this year, my specific concerns are safety, included crowded classrooms and hallways, a lack of locker space, and added congestion at pickup time. Classroom space at Madison, the library is now part library and part full-time classroom. There's no visual or auditory separation of the space, so it's not really fair to the students who are in there. It's distracting, and also to the students wishing to use the library. It's cut down on their space and their resources and really made the library not a fun place to be. Lunch, not enough time or space for the children to eat. And educators, I'm really concerned about, these stresses on the schools. Is that going to impact our ability to attract and retain teachers? I wouldn't want to be that teacher who's stuck in the library all day. Finally, planning and curriculum concerns related to the overcrowding is materials. My son didn't have science for the first few weeks of school because the school only received 2 science kits for 3 sections of science occurring simultaneously, and the teachers were left to deal with how do they make that work. And I think, it was just a planning issue probably that I know there were a lot of moving parts going into this year, but it just worries me next year with that amount of change, how much more of that will we see? Books, I still haven't gotten a good answer on whether or not 6th grade level reading materials have or will be brought back into the middle school. We have a great library in town, but I'd also like to see my son have access to books at his reading level in his school. And finally, not necessarily related to this all, but because I'm here, I'm wondering if we can adjust the standards-based grading so it's based on an average of students' performance and not just their last assessment that they've taken. It can be a little defeating if they don't do well on one unit to have that be their grade. Consider adding keyboarding into the curriculum. Starting at an early age, our students take the Iowa assessments, ACT Aspire, and other tests on laptops, but they've had no formal keyboarding training, and both students and teachers report that this is detrimental. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Natalie.
Hello, my name is Jill Holler. I live at 1314 Oakland Drive here in town. I have 2 daughters. One is at Central in 7th grade, and one is at Mulberry in 5th grade. My younger one in Mulberry has 29 in her class. In math class, she has 31. I've always been a strong advocate for small class size. I'm from a family of teachers. I'm a teacher myself, and I see how important it is. So that I'm really advocating for that, and I know that more building space will allow us to have smaller class sizes, which I think is fairness towards the students and the teachers too. As I was looking over some things in the Des Moines Register, I found a graph, which I will just pass to the board members. It was published last year around this time, and it says that the state goal for the this is for average. This is a 3rd grade class size. The state goal is 17 students, and in some of our classrooms, I know we're double that. At Madison, one of my friends has a daughter who's in 2nd grade, and she has 38 in her classroom, and it's been a real burden on that child. So I'm not speaking just for my kids, but for other parents who I talk to, many parents, and we're just concerned, and we want the best for our kids, just to let them to have just the dignity of not being crowded in such small spaces. This graph is from the Iowa Department of Education, so you can uncheck that if you want to. But as I said, if this is right, the class that has 38 is way beyond double of the ideal size for class size. I also was just doing some research, and I came across some summary of some research done on the matter of class size, and I just want to read a few of those. It says small class size works. Small class sizes work because it gives teachers an opportunity to offer students more personalized instruction, which is probably the reason that academic achievement goes up. The efficacy of classroom management efforts is increased in smaller groups. Kids also seem to pay more attention. Students in smaller class sizes seem to outperform those who are taught in larger groups. Smaller class sizes don't have this same positive effects if you decrease the physical space in which they are convened. The more space, the better. Students with special needs benefit from smaller class sizes. Students were found to be more engaged in classrooms with fewer students and reported better relationships with their teachers and peers. Students in smaller classes spent more time on task than students in larger classrooms. And small class sizes have a positive effect on teacher retention, which is another thing I'm worried about. As class sizes go down, the retention rates for teachers go up. So I thank you so much for your time. I respect you all, and I'm glad that you're here to listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Is there anyone else? Dr. Eby, I believe that the December meeting, there will be an item to discuss the potential merger of the two middle schools.
Right, to look at what modifications need to be made and, you know, the board wants to continue to move forward with that.
Okay. So stay tuned for more information on that. Of course, you're always welcome to join us in person or online, and board members are always willing to talk when we can actually converse and have a conversation outside of meetings as well. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. Those conversations are always very helpful. So thank you for those that came and spoke tonight. Our next item on our agenda, our action or possible item, we have the following items are considered to be routine by the Board of Education and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the director so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence from the agenda. Those items are minutes and bills and claims. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll move to accept the consent agenda, please.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? And the motion carries. The last item on the agenda for this portion of our meeting is to accept the official report of votes from the Muscatine County Auditor. I would entertain a motion for that. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the official report of votes from the Muscatine County Auditor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. Tonight's meeting is unique in that each year we have a reorganization of the board, so we have a short meeting with our retiring board, and then we take a very quick break or change of scenery, I guess, if you will, not venue, and we bring in our new board members. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting, I would like to sincerely thank our outgoing members, Nathan, Randy, and Mary, for many years of service in a variety of ways. You all have given countless hours that our community often does not see. We've all spent lots of late evenings together, long days, and it's been good conversation. There's been a lot of good work done. So to the three of you, thank you so very much for what you've given to the district.
And we have some certificates recognizing that dedication to our district. And on behalf of all of the staff in the school district, you know, I can't tell you how much we appreciate the leadership you've given. Nathan, I believe 8 years on the board. Randy, I believe 5 years on the board, and maybe more than 2 or 3 working in the classroom. And Mary, I believe 8 years on the board and also years of service in our district. And I can't tell you how much it means for this district to have this caliber of commitment to the district. So thank you. And on behalf of us, I wish you could turn this over and there would be a trip to Hawaii on there. Tom says the auditors would catch that. So, Mary, thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right, my friends, our last item that we need to do is I need a motion to adjourn.
I would like to move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Really? Like, don't leave me hanging now. It has been moved and seconded to adjourn the retiring board. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. And the motion carries. We'll take a very quick break, and we'll pick up then with the next part of our meeting. time has come. My mic's already been cut off. Look at that. I would ask our incoming board members to join us, please. And I think Lisa's already set out nameplates.
No, I don't have them yet.
Oh, not yet. I thought that was super fast, if that was the case.
This is your itinerary, and that's from Leslie Soul. That's your election paper.
Okay. Nathan forgot his name. Nathan. Allow me. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, it's an obstacle course up there.
Thanks.
You must have not went to Kansas.
I did. We'll get you on, you need to be on this side, right? We'll get that switch next meeting.
Yeah, you can sit down again.
So you can't hear me, just grab my hand or something.
Do I do the oath?
Huh?
We do the oath?
Yeah.
We do the oath?
No. The new board members do the
The
oath.
new-
And then
We don't have to.
We do.
He-
Well,
You're good. You're
well
good.
elected.
She's saying no.
So I don't have to.
You don't, you will.
Why don't you? Why doesn't Aaron?
Yeah,
Why doesn't Aaron?
why don't I?
Because you two already did the oath.
He didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Did somebody elect?
Okay, are we ready for the second half of our meeting?
Madam Secretary, we are ready to get started. If you would lead us, that would be great.
Bet. So the annual and organizational meeting of the Muscatine Schools Board of Education is now called to order. Our first item of business is the administration of the oath of office to our new board members. So I ask that the three of you, oh, and Aaron, please stand and raise your right hand. Hold on, I gotta get my sheet. Okay. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of board member in the Muscatine Community School District as now and hereafter required by law?
I do.
will.
Congratulations. Okay, now, our next item of business is the election of board president and vice president. I will ask for nominations for board president. A second is not required. If there is only one nomination, we will need a motion and a second to cast a unanimous vote for board president. If there are more nominations, a motion is needed that nominations cease with a second and the ballots be cast. I will administer the oath of office to the board president and turn the meeting over to the president for election of the vice president. The process for electing the vice president is the same. The president or myself will then administer the oath of office to the vice president. So at this time, I will entertain nominations for board president.
I'd like to nominate Tammy for the president.
Okay? Anyone else? Okay, so since there's only one nomination, I now need a motion and a second to cast a unanimous vote for Tammy Drawbaugh for board president.
I move.
Who is that? Oh, Denny, thank you.
I second.
Mike? I'm gonna have to get used to your voices. Okay, so Denny made the motion, Mike seconded. All those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. So Tammy, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now I need you to stand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of board president in the Muscatine Community School District as now and hereafter required by law?
I will.
Congratulations. I now turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you. I will now ask for nominations for the board vice president. I'm going to read exactly what Lisa did. A second is not required. If there is only one nomination, we will need a motion and a second to cast a unanimous vote for the vice president. If there are more nominations, a motion is needed that nominations cease with a second and the ballots are cast. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll nominate John. Are
there any other nominations? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to cast a unanimous ballot and to close nominations.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close nominations and to nominate John as our vice president. Sorry, John, I can't write and talk at the same time. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. I believe the secretary now needs you to stand.
If you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of Board Vice President in the Muscatine Community School District as now and hereafter required by law?
I will.
Congratulations.
We are now on to the annual meeting portion of our agenda. This is all, we do this each year, so if this feels a little quick, the reason for that is, again, it's done yearly. So we need to transact the following annual business as prescribed by law. This can be done all at once if directors so wish. I am going to read through this list for those that may be watching at home without an agenda in front of them. The items are to appoint Lisa Mosier-Bunn as board secretary, appoint Tom Anderson as board treasurer, designate First National Bank, CBI Bank and Trust, and Community Bank, all of Muscatine, as official depositories of district funds in the amount of $15 million each. Appoint Stanley, Landy, and Hunter, Allers Law Firm, and Lynch Dallas PC as counsels to represent the school district in legal matters on a timely basis. Designate the Muscatine Journal as a publication of record. Designate Bonesack and Frommelt as auditor of record. Approve the statement of board's review and support district policies, co-curricular and extracurricular programs, and to appoint the district compliance officers. What are the wishes of the board?
I move to approve item 4 of our agenda, A through H. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the item 4, which is the annual meeting transacting the following business items, letters A through H. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. That takes us to our organization of the board. We have a couple of items. Letter A is the board meeting schedule for December 2019 through November of 2020. That is just an informational item. Madam Secretary, that's correct. We do not need to approve that because it already follows our
Correct.
dates as outlined in our board policy.
That is correct.
Okay, so everybody can mark your calendars with all of those dates. The next thing that we need to look at is we have some board assignments. We'll start with the first one, which is to appoint a board member that sits on the county conference board. John, I believe you've done that the last few years. Would you be interested in doing that again?
If the board wishes, yeah.
I think the pay is the same this year as it was last year. Is there anybody else that would have any interest in doing that? And if not, I would entertain a motion from the board.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
You good on that second, Lisa? I heard two voices. You okay with that?
I chose one.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to appoint John DeBeat as the county conference board representative from the school district. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. The next item is for an appointment to the Ag Center Learning Board. Jerry, can you give us a little color as far as how many meetings that is? And it's at a nice late time in the day, I believe, right?
Yes, it is one meeting a month. It is typically 7 a.m., finished by around 8 a.m. It is a great way to get a better understanding of the combination of MCC's Ag program, our Ag program, and the Friends of the FFA.
What are the wishes of the board?
I'd like to nominate Toby for this.
I think they have donuts in the morning, Toby, when there's the
There's no
meeting.
donuts.
He can bring his own.
Until after he agrees.
Toby, are you willing to serve in that capacity?
You know, it's interesting, I was gonna nominate Mike. Yeah, I will, fine.
Well, I'm not going to throw Karen under the bus on this, but you had mentioned to us that you would be interested in this. I don't know if that time works for you. If it doesn't work for you, I would be willing to do it. If you're interested.
7 a.m. is always hard, but yes, I can possibly do that. I think it'd be a good challenge.
Then I would nominate Karen for this position.
I move in second.
And vote yay.
Right. Thank you though, John. Appreciate it.
All right, so since we did have a nomination on the floor, is John able to, or can Toby deny, he can decline the nomination? Perfect.
Yep.
But thank you for your willingness to serve, Toby. And Karen, perfect. So, and I did hear a motion to close the nominations. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in,
Oh, Toby closed it.
yes, and Aaron seconded it.
And that was an airtight closing.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. Karen, thank you so much for being willing to do that. You have to bring your own donuts. I heard there are not donuts. So there you go. The last item then for board assignments is an appointment to the audit committee. I'll let Tom answer any really, really specific questions. I've done this the past couple of years. And if somebody would like to do it, I'm happy to do it, but if there's somebody else who's dying for the experience, it would not hurt my feelings at all.
I move to have Tammy.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
No.
All those in favor to put Tammy on the audit committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. Tom, you're stuck with me. Nobody even asked you any questions either. That was the crazy part. All right, so the next portion of our agenda falls under our board targets and goals. I'm going to just read through these really quickly, Jerry, and then I'll pass it to you. But this is, students will graduate prepared for post-secondary options. Muscatine schools will utilize resources effectively and equitably, and students will learn in a positive and supportive environment. Jerry, I think you have a couple of topics under each one of these.
Yeah, and let's see, Lisa, can you project that?
I'm going to pass that on to Scott.
Oh, there it is. Okay. There's often been a question about open enrollment and where we are at with the number of students that opt in and opt out. We have put together some information we've gotten from the state on kind of where we are in a range of schools that are similar to us, and also L&M was thrown in there because of their proximity to us. As you can see, as far as the number of kids that open enroll out of our district, we're probably on the lower end of percentages of districts that would match our demographic and population. We have, last year we had 198 students that opted out. We had 46 that came in. I believe this year we had 20 additional kids move in. That's always a good thing. One of the things that Muscatine doesn't have is a large population center to be able to draw kids from the standpoint of, we often get a request from Davenport, but Davenport doesn't allow folks out of their district because of their diversity plan. So I just thought, and then I asked Lisa to just kind of go through the different reasons that people do opt out. And of that number, 89 of the students were opt out because of a family move, which means they had been living in a nearby district. They moved to Muscatine but wanted their kids to stay in the system that they were in. We also had 36 of those were students that they had a sibling in another school and they wanted to keep their families together. The next biggest reason was no reason given, which was 42. And otherwise it was all singletons and one or two, health concerns, needed a change, those kinds of things. So parents work at the other district. So that I just wanted to give the board some sense of that, because there's often a lot of conversation about we're losing all of those students. In comparison to schools like us, we are on the low end of people opting out. And it'd be great if we had more students come in, and we like to see that the trend we had this year was an improvement. But one of the things that's really kind of striking with this, if you look over at the state average, when you look at the state average of school district size in Iowa is around 1,300 students, and the open enrollment out average is 100 per district. So when you look, we're almost 3 times the size of the state average. We're probably, again, kind of in that range of what you would expect. So I just wanted to give the board that information, because there's 200 students is a lot of students, but in today's world of movement and choice, I think we're holding our own. Any questions on that?
We're comparing apples to apples, right? So with some of these districts that you showed,
Yeah.
Are there private school issues or anything like that in there, or this is all apples
This would
to
just
apples?
be public school.
Just public
Just
schools.
public school, because open enrollment only it goes from one public school to another public school. Yeah.
In the open enrollment, can a district refuse to have that person come?
Yes, if a student is currently, say, has been expelled from another student or is under suspension, the district can say no. If they meet the deadline, it's very difficult to have reject a student again, unless there's some disciplinary issue.
But you said Davenport.
Davenport,
doesn't
because of
allow-
their diversity plan, they do not allow students out. Again, that would be a kind of a natural. Like I said, we get a fair number of contacts each year, and we always have to tell them the same thing. Well, you're gonna have to work with your district, because they typically don't let them out. So. Okay, and then the next item, we have a new, I hesitate to say program, but we have a new response for some students that are really struggling with being in a classroom. And Becky is going to share where we're at with this and where we hope to be.
Yeah, so I'd just like to give the board an update on where we're at. So in having a proactive approach in supporting our teachers and our students, this has kind of led to the development of the restorative program. So the idea of this restoration program has been shared and vetted with all the staff and stakeholders at our 10 of our buildings, and responses of support have been numerous. So the Restore program, I'm calling it Restore for short. So the Restore program, it is for those elementary age children who are still discovering how to adjust appropriately. It's not intended to be disciplinary in nature, nor a long-term placement. So Restore will help students gain the necessary skills to function in a day-to-day school setting, our schools. Restore will implement social emotional learning methods that model respect and then promote responsibility and decision making. So basically, the purpose of the Restore program is teaching and reaching students with more of a trauma responsive practice. So what does that look like? Well, that's what we've been working on. So basically, the timeline of development for the month of November and December is we have hired a teacher. And so currently we are working through establishing processes and systems. So we're establishing the location. We know that Central Middle School has some open classrooms, so this may be an option for us, but we are currently actively pursuing another location, and it looks like possibly the Flickinger location. We're working through the details of maybe partnering with them and using that facility during the day, so just kind of stay tuned for that development. So for the rest of November and December, this is kind of what it looks like. We are eagerly working. We are clearly defining what this referral process looks like, including the steps for intake, goal setting, data collection that's going to be indicators of success. We're developing a guide and planning for the reintegration back into the school setting. We're currently working on what does this daily schedule look like. We know that academics is important, but behaviors sometimes supersede the academics, so that's the number one focus. Each student will have an individualized plan that will include social emotional goals. We're calling it a direct care plan. So this care plan will be developed with the students, the parents, and possibly other service providers as well. So we're looking at coordinating connected services that will be a part of each student's plan, daily plan. This could include additional resources, a family support component. We know that our resource navigators, our SRO, our elementary guidance counselors, our therapists, and outside care providers such as LSI, Family Resources, will be utilized. We know that there needs to be a parent component, creating connections between home and school. They need to be established or possibly sometimes reestablished in some cases. We want to support parents, but we also want to give the support to the students. So when they are in a general education setting, they have the skills and supports that are needed. So supporting those expectations for successful reintegration is going to be a big deal for us. We're working on determining and developing what that reintegration process looks like. We are clarifying what this looks like. We use in education the gradual release back. So gradual, that's the key word. We know that these kiddos need intensive one-on-one teaching, but they also need to model and practice in that continuous cycle. So we know the gradual release back into the classroom environment is going to be key. Again, this is not a permanent placement. This is just a temporary kind of a new beginning type replacement. So you're also wondering, well, where are you getting all these ideas? Well, we are continually looking at other programs and models, best practices, and research developed materials. We haven't quite found exactly the Superstar program. As soon as we do, I'm sure all schools will take that to the advantage. So we are kind of building this. We know it's going to evolve. We know we need to do something as a district. Every day we have kiddos that are put in some sticky situations, and we need to react in a proactive way instead of a reactive way. So currently, the month of December is going to be a big month for professional development. We've reached out and we've have some trainings that we're going to attend. One is a restorative discipline conference that's going to be near the Chicago area. There's also going to be a training that we're going to be going to basically on motivating and managing hard to reach, uninterested, and disruptive students, and this is more of a trauma-sensitive approach. This aligns, and maybe many of you are familiar with the Discipline with Dignity framework, so that taps into that framework. We know that some of our kids are sensory, so we're going to another training on a sensory approach, which basically will go deeper into de-escalation and meltdown technique strategies and how to diffuse explosive behaviors in children and in adolescents. So we have a launch date of January 6th, which is when we return back from winter break. We will continue to keep schools and staff informed as the processes are developed, and we will also definitely keep the board updated, and we will be sharing successes with you in the next few months to come. So any questions that you might be wondering about?
Becky, roughly how many kids would you be talking about with the initial placement?
Yeah. We're looking at possibly maybe starting out with 6 students. In diving into other programs that do that, we stumbled across one that's in the state, actually in Maryland, and what they do, they kind of self-contain, so to speak, for 20 days, and then they look at it every 30 with benchmarks, so you're continually looking for growth. So we kind of felt, we have a lot of students that can use our support, but our data would show that we've got kindergartners, first graders, second graders that are clearing classrooms. So our focus will be on that younger K through 3, and we're looking at probably starting with maybe 6 to 8 students.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Becky, I have just quick question, like, do we have standards how to select those at least 6 students when we want to start this program?
So the last couple of months we've been gathering kind of different ideas, vetting it through the elementary principal team, talking about criteria, where is this in the whole process of after, a building tries different interventions. So we're creating basically a referral form. All of our buildings have student success teams, which is kind of a tier 1, tier 2 layering. So we kind of feel the restorative center is more like a tier 4, but there will be principals that refer students will be presenting their kiddo, and so we'll have discipline data, we'll have log entries, we'll have academic, also criteria, and what interventions have they tried. So we kind of have a plan that we'll develop. The big key piece here is that their parents will be key in this. We'll have a contract that parents or their caregiver will sign off on, and we'll work together, because clearly there's a disconnect, and so figuring out what that disconnect is and try and get them back on track.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Becky, I got a question too, because you said that you're looking for a possible place in which to have it. I may be stepping a little bit out of bounds here,
Okay.
but you do know that Sunset Park has their after-school program area there.
So
And
that you think
might
that's
be-
available during the day?
That might be an excellent spot because of the school setting that they already have there and everything, and the desk and everything is conducive for, especially for the littler kids.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we welcome any feedback. Yeah.
Becky, you mentioned a teacher is hired. Is that, how much staff support will there be for this?
So we're looking right now, we have a teacher, and then we also have Sarah Grime, who is currently in our district. She is a special education strategist and works with all schools. So we feel we have our teacher, and then we also have Sarah, and we're planning on hiring a couple associates, some paras, probably 2 to 3. So we'll have 2 adults plus 2 or 3 associates, and then myself.
So almost 1-to-1 on a daily basis?
It could be, yes, it could
I mean, it
be.
just feels
Yeah.
like for
Yeah.
one person, it could definitely be two.
Oh, yes, yeah, it'll be a team approach. So we'll have the 2 teachers, and both have education and background in special ed. This is not necessarily a special ed program. This would be for gen ed for all. So building principals and building teams can refer anyone that they feel that this would be a good fit for them.
And you mentioned strong support from the staff. I applaud you for that, because it's one of the things I've heard about, probably the most since I've been on the board is just how difficult this is for the students and the staff and everyone. So I applaud you for that. But what are the concerns that the staff raised during these conversations? Like what are the things they're on the lookout for that would say something needs to change or this isn't working?
I think sometimes we have disruptive kiddos in the classroom that disrupt the learning of all students, and I think as a teacher, how do you prioritize this one over this one? We've just been given a lot of positive responses like, thank you. So we have a feeling once we get deeper, we could be into new territory, but we're just gonna kind of plan and evolve how it evolves over
So
time.
no concerns at this point from the staff? They haven't raised any? Okay.
Yeah, and I would also want to say this is not something just in Muscatine, not just in Iowa, nationwide. This is a huge problem, and it is affecting teachers' work environment, and it's affecting retention of teachers. One of the things, and Becky wouldn't say this, but there are not many programs like this in the country, period. And so she's taking on a project that really is being built while we're going down the runway. But it's that critical that we have a response. And I have great confidence that with the people I know that are going to be involved with this will be good for our schools, good for our teachers, and especially good for those kids. Because, as we've said 100 times, it is not their inability to read or multiply that's going to keep them from being successful. It's going to be their inability to comply and live with other people in a setting. And so it is a critical life skill that needs to be taken on.
We've also learned just, kind of in the last couple months that keeping the student connected to their school is key. They need to still feel connected to their teacher, to their friends, to the people they see. So we kind of feel that when we develop their plan, whatever school is their home school, that the principal would be visiting, the classroom teacher would be visiting, their elementary guidance counselor would be coming once a week. So they stay connected to the school because it might seem a little weird that they're in a strange place. And so we know that the key is keeping them connected and having this be a positive approach versus a negative or a punitive.
And the goal is for those kids to go back to their school and be successful. This is not meant to be, you come in at 7 and leave at 17. We would have failed.
Right, and we're calling this the reentry circle. At what point in time, you're always spinning. So during this gradual release, we've kind of talked about, maybe the kiddo will go back with a para support or one of the teachers, maybe it's an hour, and then they come back to restore. And then maybe we gradually go up to 2 hours back in their school and then back and forth. So we don't want to release a student too quick, but we also want to give them the guidance that they need.
Becky, you mentioned starting off K3, right?
That's kind of what our data would indicate, and that was just kind of in talking with our building principals. We openly share like where the struggles are, and it seems like that lower elementary is kind of where they start, which we kind of feel, if we can catch them early, so to speak, and develop some better habits and get parents connected to school, that would be a better payoff for us.
Is it because we're talking the social aspect?
Yep.
Are they all in the same sphere, if you will? Because I'm thinking what a kindergartner, what they're learning. I know some of it's academic versus a third grader, but because we're talking social, are they all about in the same area?
Well, and that's probably the elephant in the room, because some of these kiddos come with a lot of stuff that maybe we just aren't aware of. So we know that each one they might need a little bit more than the other one. When you're dealing with emotional, social issues, mental health issues, that's a big area. We all know that they're overstimulated in an environment. So I think we're trying to kind of peel it back, find that root cause, and then really work with the family and the adults that are in their lives, and helping that way too. We're a classroom teacher, they do a great job and they try to do that, but there's also other things going on. So hopefully we can kind of take this out of their wheelhouse for a little bit, give them some care and help. So it's always meant to be connecting together, not in isolation. We never want it to appear like, a student is going over there versus over here. We never wanted that child to feel that way. But we know as a district we need to respond because we have to protect that classroom and all kids that are in the classroom. All right, so stay tuned for more, okay? All right,
Thanks,
thank
Becky.
you. You're welcome.
Anything else under board targets and goals, Jerry?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just Mike has been working on some district enrollment information and class size information and some historical class size information. And that will be posted on the website in the next day or so. So we are transparent about where we're at with those things.
Okay, excellent. Our next agenda items are, the following items are considered to be routine by the Board of Education and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the director so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence from the agenda. Those items are employment recommendations, special education contracts, and district committees. What are the wishes of the board?
I move to accept the constant agenda.
Second it?
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda items as presented. Is there any discussion?
I had one question for Jerry. The administrator interns,
Yeah.
I think they're coming from the TLC program.
Right.
Do they still do that as well?
No.
Or that stops?
No, they actually leave their teacher contract for a semester, they're like on a leave of absence because you can't do administrator duties and be on the teacher contract. So they will do that for a semester and then go back to their teaching position.
So for that semester, wherever they support now, just will not have that TLC support, or?
Right, and that's something that the principals were able to work through some things on that. We did not make a move without the principals feeling like they could make that work.
All the impacted principals?
Yeah.
Any other discussion items? Tom, did you want to share anything on the audit committee? I'm good. That was not a baited question. I'm good if you are. I just wanted to make sure that if you, okay? All right, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, and the motion carries. That takes us to item E in item 6, I believe, if I've kept track here. Approve the casting a ballot for Paul Brooks for the Mississippi Bend Area Education Agency Board of Directors for District Number 8. You only have one candidate to choose from, so
So moved.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve Paul Brooks. And when I say there's only one candidate, you have a very qualified candidate. I did not, Paul will do a great job serving on that committee. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. And we thank Paul for being willing to serve in that capacity. Our next item is to award a contract to Fry Construction. This is for the MHS Storm Shelter Project in the amount of $1,702,400, which includes alternates 1, 2, 3, and 5. And I bet somebody has a little additional information they're going to give. And Jeff, everybody looks like they're looking at you.
Yeah, I think Jeff looks like a great candidate for this. We did have, I think it was last week, we opened bids, and we were really fortunate. I believe there were 8
Oh, wow.
that submitted bids, which is a good, healthy number. And as Jeff and Ryan will explain, it's always a little bit more than you had hoped, but certainly within the capacity for us to do the work. So, Jeff, maybe, or Ryan, if you'd like to maybe explain exactly what the totality of the project that is being bid will look like.
Yeah, no, haven't. Okay, so it's gonna be a precast building, but it's gonna have brick on the exterior of it. It's gonna hold about 550 occupants in the whole. There'll be a team room, there'll be toilet rooms for the public, and there'll be a concession stand in the middle, and then there'll be a concourse, which is a hard surface area in front of it, connecting, which is currently the Circle Drive, and then there'll be the plaza area, which we talk about, which is right off the football field. So it will contain all those elements, because those are the alternate bids.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably $200,000 more than what we had maybe had hoped. But it will, as we've said, it's absolutely necessary for us to occupy the science wing. And it also addresses some of the problems that we have with the stadium area. And sometimes that's always thought of as just a football issue, but we have band has a big activity there in the summer. We've got track. We've got lots of things, lots of folks using that. So opening that up will make for a much better experience. And if you've ever been to a Muskie game, that area by the concession stand is a little tight. And it would be nice to open that up and have a little additional space there. And I think that'll be easier to control, manage for as far as students and for our adults to access the concession areas. So, are there any questions on this? The bids were relatively tight. I mean, there was not much difference in them.
Yeah, it was great. We had great coverage. 8 bidders on this side of the project is amazing with how much work there is out there. And the spread was very close. There was only one bidder that was out left field, and he wasn't even that far on left field. So the bids were very tight. The bid tab was very good.
So, Jeff, the completion date will be next year sometime?
Yes, next
like
time it's end
summer?
of May.
Okay, around summer.
And, there's some flexibility in that, depends, some weather stuff that happens potentially. But the big thing is approving it, getting the precast ordered, because that gets fabricated off-site. When the weather breaks, then the panels are, boom, you're on site and you're going.
Thank you.
So, this might be a broken record, but do we have a plan for how it's going to be utilized as a storm shelter yet, or is that still in process?
Yeah, no, we don't have the areas in the building identified that would use that as their shelter area. So that as we get closer to that time, we'll have our first responders give us some idea which areas should be located there.
But we know how we're going to use the building, the doors they're going to go in, all those things, those questions we had last time. Because there's multiple doors on it, right? And
right.
Different lengths of path to get out there and all that. So, yeah, keys we were talking about to.
Yeah, and actually, it's fairly well spelled out in code how these things. Like for instance, there can't be padlock areas close by. It's kind of laid out for what you have to do by code. It'll be about 35 feet from an exit from the high school, 35-ish.
One portion of it, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
The building's just about 100 feet long, so you're looking at 160 feet to the farthest entrance.
I think the thing that we have not addressed yet will be how we will access that during an evening activity. Because there will be many more people outside that wouldn't fit inside. And we're also really need to be looking at the people that seek shelter inside, where we're going to put them. So that's going to also have to be part of the plan. That's probably my bigger concern, because you have a lot of people that you don't necessarily have control over that are going to be wanting in and wanting shelter. So we're going to have to work through that also.
But, Jerry, that is definitely true, but what I'm thinking is also if we, perhaps after we finish and complete that building, I mean, if we have some sort of a training sessions for those who will be almost guiding people to the building and so on, most probably they will take care of some of those issues too.
It will, and one of the things that we're very fortunate to have in this community, our police and fire department are so good to work with. They'll be really helpful with this. So I'm not concerned about that. It's just one of the things that once we get it up and looking at where and how we're going to do that will be necessary. So.
I'm assuming there's not another Fry construction outside of Muscatine, Iowa. So we can also say that we're able to award to a local bidder, which I love it when we can do that.
And during our scope review, they said they focused on keeping local contractors too. So a lot
Fabulous.
of the subcontractors are local too.
And they've been doing a great job over at McKinley.
Good. Good. What are the wishes of the board on this item?
I would like to move to award the contract to Fry Construction for the MHS Storm Shelter Project in the amount of $1,702,400, which includes alternates 1, 2, 3, 5.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the award Fry Construction, the MHS Storm Shelter Project as outlined in the agenda. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Our next items on our agenda are for discussion and information. We're going to have a quick conversation tonight about a conflict of interest, which is from our board policy 203.9. Jerry, I think you're going to lead that conversation. Is that fair?
Well, I think Tom may.
Tom's going to lead it.
I think, I'd hate to have Tom put me in a headlock and say that, that's.
No, that's all right. So just what we'll be doing is proposing an addition, oh gosh, I forgot the name of exhibit to 203.9, which would be a conflict of interest disclosure questionnaire for school board members. And it's just going to relate to your employment by MCSD. Do you have immediate family members that are employed by MCSD? Or if you've received personal remuneration from MCSD for some reason, for receiving goods or services. If you have a business, if you're part of a business, do they have dealings with MCSD? So it's just basically disclosing anything that could be a potential conflict of interest. So we have a sample from another, actually from an AEA in Iowa, so we'll be drafting that as like a first reading at a future board meeting.
Well, actually, an exhibit doesn't, it just requires one
Yeah.
action.
And this isn't something we just dreamed up
Right.
because we wanted something to do. The auditor actually said this is becoming common practice and is really, should be our practice also, is having this done. So I know I serve on another board in the community, and each year we have to go through and do that, so.
So I was going to ask that question. So this would be a yearly sign off by board members, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because circumstances change. And I believe probably that in this, if someone's situation would change,
and
then you would
disclose
you
that.
disclose it again. And it's really just for the board members. It's for the board members' protection as much as anything. So Tom will be getting that out to folks.
And once that's approved, then you'll also be asking for signatures.
Right.
And tell us when
Fill
we
out
need to
the
have it back,
questionnaire,
and you'll give us
exactly.
clear directions, right? Okay,
It'll be spelled out in the exhibit.
perfect. Okay? While you're on a roll, Tom,
Sure.
you want to talk about September financials?
Yep. So presented tonight is kind of the first look at FY20. We've been focusing on FY19. The first document in the board book is the September Treasurer's Report. So this document is just ongoing. Once we get done reconciling, closing a month, so to close the month of September, then we put together this Treasurer's Report with our beginning cash balance at September 1 and our ending cash balance. Obviously, sometimes cash does not affect revenue or expenditure. It'll affect a balance sheet when we're paying a liability or whatever. And then I always have a comparison of where we were at last year for the same time period. The only thing I will point out in FY20 is we have a new fund, agency fund 92. As of July 1st, we are now the fiscal agent for Early Childhood Iowa Muscatine County. And it just sounds like the term, we're the fiscal agent, that's all we do. We have no other control or anything over them. They just have to have a public entity to keep their revenue and make their disbursements for them. So that's what we do in that Fund 92. Okay, and then the next several pages then are just, I'm just highlighting some of our major funds. I'm not doing every single fund, but the ones that are pertinent to Muscatine schools, which obviously the first one is our general fund. And on this document, you're going to see a 3-month comparison of July, August, September of this year and July, August, September of last year, and where we're at year to date today and year to date last September. The top part, lines 1 through 22, if you're looking at the left-hand side, these are our revenues, our different kind of summary categories of where we get our revenues. And I've highlighted in gray and put a little asterisk on those line numbers that are considered miscellaneous income. And for the board members going to ISB convention, school basic finance 101, you'll learn a lot about this terminology that I could be using here. So miscellaneous income is highlighted. And then the bottom part, lines 22 through 39, are just our expenditures and our and requirements. Sorry, I couldn't read my own writing. So on the left for the percentage of budget remaining, that is a key thing that I always look at, and where we are at for revenues in September. We've received, or we still have 90% of our revenue to receive yet, and that's where we're at last year. So we're good there, and the same with expenditures on line 35. We've expended about 22% of our budget so far, and that's about where we were at last year. So we have 88% remaining yet. So we're just in the beginning stages of the fiscal year.
Tom, you said 22, but you meant 12?
Sure, I did. Thank you.
Just making sure.
Thank you. I got a little nervous there.
One question, was there a reclassification on the instructional staff support services?
Okay. Yeah, so that is a good point. There would be, I would call that more of a hiccup of our new finance system that we're using, and some expenditures that went into FY19 or 20 that should have been the prior year. So I made a big adjustment that last year. So it's not necessarily a reclassification like I talked to about last month. It's more of getting the expenditure in the correct, because we do a lot of accruals in July and August for all those expenses are really for FY19, and so we just ran into a little hiccup.
So that 2.6 million in FY19 was more accurate number, and went 1.7 million for.
Which one are you looking at here?
Row 25. It's $1 million less. It's just stood out as it's $1 million less than last year. But then.
Oh, line 20. Wait, which
25.
column? I'm on line 25.
First, 2019-2020 budget is 1.689
Right.
million, and last year was 2.64.
Gotcha. Yes. And I'm not done with the line item budget this year either, but yes, reclassify. I thought you meant the actual expenditures in the month of July.
No, I meant that, just
Okay.
that whole
You
piece. It
meant
looks
the
like
budget.
it's, the instruction, line 23 went up 800,000, so couldn't tell if it just got moved or.
On the instruction line,
That's up 800,000 from last year.
37.7 versus 36.9, correct.
Yep. And everything else is kind of the same, except for then instructional staff support services is down $1 million.
Correct. I mean, I don't know that I have a concrete answer for you why that is, but. And that column is a kind of, it may not be done yet, that whole budget, because we're still working on parts of our working line item budget, but.
When you get to the bottom, it's close.
Yeah.
When you were in there, it looks like it reclassified into instruction or something. I just didn't know if there was something different. Okay.
All right, so moving on, I don't have anything really to comment on the next pages. The activity fund, that's our club, organizations, athletics, both middle school and high school. The next page is our management fund that pays for our property casualty insurance, workers' comp, early retirement, and then any kind of insurance deductibles we might have to pay or unemployment. And just the one thing I'll point out here is that on line 16, you can see We still have 91% of our revenues to receive, but we've already spent 60% of our management fund budget because we have a lot of that expenditure, as I've explained. Our EMC insurance premium is rather large and we have to pay that in July up front. So we want to make sure we have the cash to do that. So EMC, our property casualty and workers' comp is something that is our largest expenditure in the management fund, and that gets paid right away in July, August. The next page, I'm combining our two capital projects funds. So Fund 33, which is SAVE, the statewide penny sales tax, and then our board and voter approved PEPL. And then the last document is our school nutrition fund. And yeah, I don't have any comments on that unless you have any questions. So that's September financials.
What questions does anyone have for Tom? All right, hearing none. Tom, thank you.
Problem.
We'll move on to announcements and upcoming meetings and events. So this week, the board, several of us will be headed to Des Moines between tomorrow and Wednesday. I had to think which day of the week it was. The Iowa Association of School Boards has their state conference about this time each year in November. And just like our Students for Lifelong Learning, many of our board members are going to attend a variety of breakout sessions from finance to, there's some new board member information, there's technology, there's board secretary information. There's a little bit of something for everyone. So we'll be doing that Wednesday and Thursday. So I appreciate board members who are able to take the time to do that. Then we jump to December 9th, which is a regular school board meeting. We'll be back here at 7 p.m. in City Hall. December 11th, there is a 2-hour early dismissal. December 16th is a session for the board. Will begin at 5:30. We'll be at the Administration Center. That is a closed session. We will be meeting with our search firm at that time to start to look at candidates through our search firm. The reason it is a closed session is those candidates have not disclosed necessarily that they are looking for a different position. So to keep that confidential, as we review that information, we will do that in a closed session. December 20th, there will be a 2-hour early dismissal for winter break. And then December 23rd to January 3rd is winter break. And if we have any snow days, that's when they're all going to occur, Ryan, is during the break. So we don't have to worry about that. Then January 6th of next year takes us back to the first day of second semester. January 8th, we'll have a 2-hour early dismissal. And January 11th, we'll have another special board session. That's a Saturday. That will be an all-day session. That is an 8:30 to 5:30 session, and the board, it is a closed session again. We will be conducting semifinalist interviews at that time. And again, those candidates have not shared with their home districts that they are actively looking at Muscatine as a potential landing place. So for that reason, we keep those confidential. When we are in the finalist phase for the superintendent search, those names are released to the press, and that information is then shared once those candidates have also had an opportunity to share with their districts that they are looking. That takes us all the way to January 13th, which is another regular board meeting here at City Hall at 7 p.m. Did I forget any important dates or events that are coming up? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. If there's not any discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone.